All right, Todd, it's great to have you on the Voice of Influence podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You have had a lot of success with Infinicept. What do you think has been one of the biggest factors in your company's success?
Well, people are always the most important thing, and we have an incredible team. I think our unfair advantage at Infinicept is we're in a market that we got into very early. We're in a niche in payments that's very exciting and growing very quickly. And we've been doing it in a way that's unique in the sense that our customers are software companies and payments companies and banks. And we help these three constituents achieve objectives in a way that they haven't been afforded in the past by industry players.
Mm. And you are a co-CEO, which is an interesting situation. Can you tell us a little bit about that arrangement and how you make decisions together about vision for the company, where you're headed, with decisions that you just need to make in terms of operational concerns and things like that?
Yeah, my co-founder and co-CEO is Dina Rich. She and I have been business partners since 2011. We innovated this idea together. We developed this market and worked with the industry participants together. We formed the business plan together. Even though it was on a handshake for 5, 6, 7 years before we even, I think, wrote anything on a napkin. And it was a few more years before we had a business entity. We just divided up the proceeds for a number of years. She and I come from very different backgrounds. She's got 30 years in electronic payments, in risk, fraud, compliance, things like that. I've got about 25 years in electronic payments in business development, sales, product marketing, things like that. And what we found was we're incredibly complementary. So as we turned what began as gig work and turned into a shared business opportunity, and then turned into a business, and then merged into a software company startup with exponential growth, what we realized was we had to formalize our partnership. What we did instinctively and in collaboration for years and years and years, suddenly as we got to 5, 6, 7 people, we needed to explain that. And then when we got, I think in 2019, we went from 8 employees to 40. And we very quickly got to a point where we couldn't collaborate on every decision. And we had to figure out a way to, so that every single person in the company knew who did what. And we spent actually about 6 months putting together kind of an organizational design. And what we settled on is Dina comes from and is an expert in all things fulfillment, operations, risk, building stuff. And I'm an expert on creating demand and seeing that through to signed agreements. So I look after go-to-market and she looks after fulfillment.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. It's always fun to hear people who have done startups that have to go through these iterations of how do we explain what we do? We are going to have to get more defined in what we do. Sometimes people find that to be confining or difficult. I mean, was that an easy transition, or was it difficult to actually have to say, okay, no, let's nail this out?
It was difficult to design.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it took us 6 months. Nothing takes 6 months in a startup, but it was really difficult to design and to understand how could we build a format that would scale and that every single person in the entire company could in less than 1 sentence know who to go to for something undefined. So that was really hard to determine, but once we determined it was really easy to implement. And we had always been doing it this way. It just, even when things were undefined, we make decisions because it's not, no one gets a veto power, no one has higher percentage of the company or a bigger influence. So we always made decisions together, and I don't know that we talked about it for a number of years, but we always would defer to whomever has more expertise in a particular decision. If there was a so-called tiebreaker, whomever is the more expert on the area will ultimately get that tiebreaker.
Hmm. And do you find that it slows you down at all, or just causes you to hesitate and to think a little bit more, but maybe you would have moved faster on your own, or that in the end that's actually a good thing, or how does the timing thing work for you?
Timing is fine because we collaborate and we make sure to have regular check-ins on an everyday-ish basis. So we just have a list if there are things that we need to collaborate. I don't think maybe you could find a time where it slowed us down over the last 3 years. You might want to work lightning quick, but I think what's more important is it's really easy on the bigger decisions to go too fast as a startup. We haven't felt a palpable slowing down of anything, but we have certainly on the bigger decisions. It's given us a little bit of rigor that has been really helpful. It's not like going to a board. I mean, she's right there. I'm pointing 20 feet through a wall. So we have put a priority to trying to be geographically together a fair amount so that we can collaborate. Certainly, difficult conversations are much, much, much easier in person.
That's so true. Well, I'm congratulations on creating such a partnership. It's a really cool thing. And I think it's good for people to see that too. If they're seeing you guys talk things out really well together and work well together, I would imagine that filters throughout the organization.
It does. We definitely set the foundation for a collaborative organization, and I think that's one of our biggest strengths as a company. We collaborate. People who haven't been in a collaboration mindset haven't lasted long in Infinicept.
So you speak at industry conferences, and you're really a recognized authority in payment technology. How do you think that your personal brand and as a subject matter expert has contributed to even your company's success?
I get really uncomfortable isn't the right word, but I don't love the idea of personal brand as something distinct from doing a good job in business. I certainly buy into public speaking and thought leadership and identifying topics, and especially if one is thinking about how to develop a career, thinking about becoming number one in something or becoming an expert in something or becoming known for something is a great way to think about the so-called personal brand. But I just don't think I think that distracts from business more than adds to it. So it's not about if you're, for me, I'm very tied to the concept of payment facilitators and software-led payments. This is something that I've been talking about for years and years and years. I care about it a lot. Other things that can be really important for executives can be a social cause, or women leadership, for example, is something that's really important and something that needs to get every CEO, every board, every organization thinking about. So if it's more about this concept, then I'm a big fan. And if the byproduct is that you become known for something and that becomes bigger than just you or your company, and that allows additional emphasis for the company, additional focus for the company, people want to work at your company, people hear about it, customers get a better feeling about you, prospects are more likely to buy. All those things are great.
Sure. And really just, I think of when you go to a conference and you're speaking about subject matter expertise and you're starting to you get a reputation. You get a reputation for knowing what you're talking about and maybe being trustworthy and that sort of thing, which seems to, I'm guessing that probably has a little bit of an impact on the way that people view you and your company and whether or not they want to do business with you.
I would let other people sort of talk about the impact of it, but what I would say is the act of doing it. If someone decides that you deserve to be on stage, generally speaking, people tend to think you're some sort of expert, especially if you wear a tie. I'm just kidding. But the fact that you get up there, it's so often, especially earlier in your career, just saying yes, no matter what they're asking for, just saying yes and showing up. So many people don't show up or change plans or cancel or are flaky or don't do a good job or give a stupid commercial about their company rather than a topic that people want to hear. And I think I'll speak for myself, but probably Dina would say the same thing. Our industry nonprofit trade association has been really important in our careers. If you look at, it's called the Electronic Transactions Association. My first time getting involved was the year 2000. And I got involved in the technology committee and stayed on the technology committee for a number of years and ultimately was chairman of the technology committee. And then I was on the board. And then I was, involved in other committees and have kept my companies involved. And every single time they asked me at the last minute to fly somewhere and speak somewhere, or at the last minute, someone couldn't show up for a panel and they're like, hey, will you jump in? I always just said yes and figured it out. And that was a great way to really help the industry, which was more important to me than, so-called personal brand.
I talk to a lot of business owners or who look at the entrepreneurship process as almost one of the most personally developmental things that they've experienced. So they have changed a lot because of it. They've been challenged a lot because of it. Is it something that you have also experienced, that you felt personally challenged and you've grown a lot through your business ownership experience?
There are no words for how difficult it is to take what starts as an idea and give birth to something that ultimately today, I think we have 70 employees. There are no words. Every 3 months, the journey completely changes. The challenges of leadership, the challenges of, it's always human factors. 98% of all the tough things have to do with other humans, whether it's customers, employees, board members, investors, partners. It always comes down to competitors. It always comes down to human factors. So I would say it is incredibly rewarding. It does grow a person, I think. And it also, only another founder can really fully appreciate how difficult it is, at least from my point of view.
How have you personally grown through your experience?
I think one of the biggest ways is you realize how many things you suck at, and then you choose the things that you need to get better at and choose the things that you complement yourself, and the humility that is required to recognize that it is impossible to get it all right. You're choosing what things to accept not to be good enough. And I think that's the biggest thing that's difficult. And learning for me, I think learning about accepting a goal of excellence rather than perfection. This is actually one of our core values, be excellent because perfect is impossible. That has a lot of downstream implications because it keeps you from trying to be defensive and explain anything about how it wasn't perfect. It takes accepting that there are a lot of things that will go wrong and a lot of things that are your fault. Everything's your fault if you're a founder.
Yeah, man, that's so true. I had a conversation the other day with on another show, and that's one of the things that we were talking about was just the importance of not letting the need for being perfect, the need for being right, the need to have everything, all the ducks in a complete row. that sort of feeling is a feeling of rigidity that can easily be knocked off kilter, and then you become defensive. And so if you have that room for flexibility, if you have that room for, okay, life is messy, this is going to be messy, but it's going to be okay and we can get through it. There's something really special about that. I like that for a core value. You said, what was it called again? What would you actually say?
Be excellent because perfect is impossible.
Yeah. Love that. What are your other core values?
Act like an adult, have integrity, do the right thing, and eat and drink well.
Eat and drink well. What's that one?
We like to eat and drink well at Infinicept.
Okay.
It means whatever you take it.
Okay.
If that means you like to have fine wine, great. If that means you like to eat and drink healthily, that is great. And if it means that you just find that the fifth core value gives us a little bit of humor and makes everyone smile, we like that too.
And humanity. It gives you, it really touches on that sense
It
of like, we
turns
are
out
human.
it turns out that we can't live without it.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Have you noticed in the past couple of years with all the things going on, have you noticed any shifts in the requirements of what it means to have to be a healthy leader in the past couple of years? What has
Absolutely.
shifted?
Everything has changed from my point of view. And the biggest thing that I would say is people have changed, but people are shaken. And I don't think anybody knows what the so-called new normal is yet. Workplaces have changed. We have a much bigger office than we have people who want to come into the office. We have a lot of knowledge workers, almost all knowledge workers. And our experience so far has been there's not a default to want to go do their knowledge work in somebody's room or somebody's group of rooms. We've noticed that employees and everybody are looking for ways to connect in person and virtually, and haven't, I don't think, figured out all of how this is supposed to work. I think that we always had, you can tell from our core values, we always had a culture of empowerment and a culture of allowing people to be their best selves and try to give us a chance to hear them and give them that expression. And that goes all the way to Infiniflex, which is our vacation policy. And we don't call it unlimited. I think in JustWorks, it's listed as unlimited, but it doesn't really mean unlimited. Nobody has unlimited vacation. This is a job. But we allow our employees and encourage our employees to do the right thing. And that means take what you need to be your best person and your best employee. And it's different for different people. But we also found that some of our best people really had trouble navigating that because it was full of pressure. What's too much? What's enough? So we increased our vacations. So we have the company's closed on 6 vacations a year. We increased that to 15 days a year. So we took a bunch of holidays that hadn't been recognized, some new holidays recognized by the government like Juneteenth, and some others that we hadn't considered a company holiday. We thought, it's Infiniflex policy, take it off if that's what you want to do, but we made them formal company holidays. And then for ones that had been holidays, we added another day. So we did like a Friday if it was a Monday holiday, or a Thursday, Friday. And we did that, each year we look at it specifically to arrange it. And the reason we do that is so that for people who we would wish nobody would harbor guilt for doing that, but if they do somehow or feel strange about it, this sort of forces them out, and they're not going to have emails to come back to. We hope anyway. And other than critical, we want our customers to know that critical infrastructure like us, we do keep the systems working, and we move money and things like that. But we rotate through our critical staff so that they still get their own special time off if they are in a position where we have to keep the lights on for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard this before, where people feel like you want to give people the chance to take ownership of their own choices, and especially like things like vacation, like you're talking about. But then some folks just need the clarity of what exactly you mean by that, or give me some boundaries so that I know how far out I can actually go. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Have you found there to be anything in particular that helps keep your ear to the ground when it comes to, it sounds like not everybody is at the office at this point. Are you able to still keep the information flowing and people's voices are being heard, that sort of thing?
I think, first of all, yes, we have a monthly all hands, and we always include an ask me anything portion of it. What we try to do is just be really transparent, and we're real with everybody. We try to be as transparent and open as we can about everything. If we feel a certain way as leaders, we encourage our executive team to speak up. We encourage our teammates, at every level to speak up, and we actually try to listen. We try to incorporate as much as we can, and we hope, and our goal is for that transparency and openness and honesty to lead people to feel comfortable talking to us about things. And we always try and think about the people who do speak up and also the people who don't speak up. So we try not to make the incentives at Infinicept only pay off for those who are outspoken. For example, with compensation, right? Some people are going to be more forward about it, but that leads to really unhealthy outcomes, especially when you talk about traditionally underserved populations, whether it be women or BIPOC. There's just proof out there that if a leadership team only listens to those who speak up, then we will not get it right. So we try to look for ways to get those who are less likely to speak up to communicate. We did a stay survey, and that was like an exit interview, except for people who you don't want to exit. And so you ask everyone, how you doing? And we were pretty excited. I think it was 9 out of 10 employees are happy to be here, and the same exact number would recommend others come work here. And we were proud of that. We think that's a pretty good number comparatively.
That's a great number. Great number. So what are the top 2 to 3 things that you would recommend CEOs focus on at this stage of the pandemic and social climate? And now here we have, the disruption in Europe, concerning things going on there. What 2 to 3 things do you recommend CEOs focus on? What are you paying attention to? Maybe somebody else will benefit from it.
I'm paying attention to keeping my eye on the ball, paying attention to prioritizing what really matters, and to really think about our employees and our investors, and really importantly, I talked about both of those already, but our customers, as best we can, trying to take care of them and do the things that are needed to be a good listener, and to take action as best we can, and try and neither not be unfair in the expectations of ourselves and not be unfair in the expectations of others.
Hmm. What do you see as challenges, or like maybe a challenge or an opportunity, some of the biggest challenges and opportunities coming up here in the next year?
I think it's the most important thing is going to come down to first principles, like it always does. If you've got a good fundamental business, of course, macro matters. It always matters. So how does your business get affected by the macro? If inflation stays higher than we want it to for longer, if interest rates go up, if gas prices are high, what are the fundamentals of the business? We're fortunate in that the fundamentals of our business are extremely strong. People need to make payments. Software companies deserve to get a bigger portion of payments as their revenue. Software companies need this even more with the changes that are happening in the macro environment. So we think this is only going to continue the trend that's a many-year trend. But I think that's where understanding, and I think if there were one thing I would say that matters more than anything, it's if you're getting a sinking feeling about something, or if there's something that's happening that could really affect you, confront it really quickly, get it to the surface, talk about it, address it. It's much easier to solve a problem if you're admitting it's a problem.
Really good advice. All right. So a voice of influence develops their voice, they clarify their mission, and they build into their team so that their organization can have a positive impact, both inside and outside the company. What advice do you have? Okay, and maybe it's not advice, but words of wisdom do you have for someone who wants to be a voice of influence?
Do the hard work. Don't skip steps. Don't try to be something that you're not, or try to be something that is outwardly great. If you become good at something, get better at it, stick with it. The longer you're doing it, we talked about podcasting, and if you stick with podcasting, your podcast will get better. You'll be a better podcaster. Your audience will grow, all the great things. Same thing in any kind of business or endeavor at all. If you do the underlying hard work and you put one foot in front of the other and you put your pants on one leg at a time and all those things, then what ends up happening is you get the outcomes you're looking for. Not every time, by the way. You will certainly have, no matter how good of a job you do, or no matter how right you may be, you're going to have things that are in or out of your control that don't go well. And it's how you bounce back from those things and how you stick to it. And ultimately, with the benefit of enough years and the beauty of compounding, you get the opportunity to do all of those things. And if ultimately that means that you're influencing others, I hope what that means is you're creating more good in the world. My dad's he's a professor. He's a distinguished professor at University of Colorado. And one of the things he thinks about and talks about is scientific children and scientific grandchildren. And that means that he has scientists, mathematicians that he worked with 30 years ago who they might have been graduate students or postdoctoral students, and then they went on to be professors, and they kept going through their career, and then they taught what they've learned, including what my dad taught them, to students, and it continues like that. And I think that's available in all walks of life. And I think it's a great way to think of, if you want to think about influence, that's a great way to think about it.
I completely agree. It's not about the numbers. It's about the depth of the relationship and the kind of, I don't know. I think also the influence is a two-way street. We are influenced by others as we are influencing. And when that happens, it's healthy and it's better. So thank you for drawing our attention back to that, Todd, and for, what I would say is being a voice of influence in your own company and in your industry and for our audience today. So thank you.
Thank you very much.